86% aller App-Ideen stammen von persönlichen Problemen des Entwicklers. Diese Ideen sind für Apps, die niemand braucht. App-Entwickler glauben, Forschung mit den Benutzern ist Zeitverschwendung. Um ihre Idee zu bestätigen, fragen sie ihre Schwester, ob es ihr gefällt. Sie sagt ja.
I want you to meet two such people. These are the co-founders of Nodio. Nodio is a note-taking app that nobody needs. These are Will and Dana. Dana is a Trekkie. She's 25 years old. She's a graduate of computer science department at Stanford University. She's been coding since she was 8 years old. And this is Will. Will is 26 years old. He loves Star Wars and Legos. He graduated from MIT, also computer science. They met over a weekend hackathon in San Francisco about a year ago. And about 6 months ago, they started Nodio. They liked each other's way of thinking about code, and they started the company. Will and Dana are failing. They're crashing, they're burning, and they're sinking. $200,000 of seed money that they got as an investment. I'm here to help you avoid their mistakes. I'm here to help you execute the right plan. Hi, I'm Tomer. I'm a user researcher at Google, and I've been studying dozens of thousands of people trying to understand what they need, what they want, and how they use different products. I've been helping Google Search and other startup companies worldwide to figure out what are human needs that they can help meet. Going back to Will and Dana, here are 6 big problems that they have. Their first problem is what I call they did not fall in love with a problem. They started Nodio, a note-taking app, because they felt that they had a problem with note-taking. And they thought that their idea is what's going to solve the world's problems in terms of note-taking. They were not even aware of the thousands of apps available, note-taking apps available on Google Play and the App Store. They just had a problem of their own and started a company. What a lot of startups do, and they did that too because they read a lot of articles, they launched this landing page. The app didn't exist yet. They heard that this is a good thing to launch things and see how people respond to it. And they thought that if enough people sign up here, that's a good sign. The problem is with this landing page is that it only answers this question here. Are people interested enough in the app to put down their email? That's it. It doesn't say anything about whether people need this app or not. Their second problem is that they interviewed friends and family. They interviewed 7 friends and 7 family members, and they all liked the idea. How could they not? Friends and family are always happy to help you. They will always give you the feedback that you're looking for. The problem is that they're biased. Of course they'll use your product. Of course it's a great idea. Sure, they'll pay for it a lot. Their third problem is that they listen to users. Now I know that coming from a user experience researcher, this might look kind of weird, but please, please don't do their mistake. Don't listen to users. Instead, observe their behavior. That's much more telling than listening to them. When they interviewed their friends and family, they asked them 3 questions. Every startup that I know asks people these 3 questions. You know what these are?
Would you like mine?
Would you buy it?
Would you buy it?
Use the menu?
Nope. I'll help.
How much money would you pay for it?
Would you use it? Would you buy it? How much you'd pay for it? 2 out of 3, not bad. The problem with these questions is the word that they're starting with, would. They were asking people to predict the future. And we humans are very, very, very bad at predicting the future. Will is kind of sarcastic about these things. So here are 2 research studies that looked into the difference between what's called attitude and behavior. Attitude is what people think, what their opinion is, what they think about the future, maybe. And behavior is what they actually do. So this is from 1937. The researchers went into classrooms, and they did that with many, many thousands of students. And they asked, together with the teachers, this was coordinated, they passed a questionnaire and asked students, given an opportunity to cheat in an exam, would you do it? And not get caught. Would you do it? And the students answered. It doesn't matter what they answered. They answered. Okay? A few weeks after, again, together, this was coordinated with the teachers and researchers, they were actually given an opportunity to cheat without getting caught. They, at least that's what they thought. No repercussions. But what happened is that they were asked, in the end of the exam, they were asked to grade their own exam. And they said that the teachers told them, the grade that you're going to give yourselves, it's going to be your grade. That's it. So, and then the teachers collected the exams. They checked them and compared the results. And then the researchers knew the difference between what these students said about their behavior and between their actual behavior. There was close to 0 correlation between what they said and what they did. It doesn't matter if they cheated or not, what they said or not. Almost zero correlation. So that's one study. Now the sarcastic among you might say, you said 1937. That's a long time ago. Things change, behavior changes, humans change. Not that much. Here's another thing, another study from 2 years ago. This was done in the UK. The researchers went into, I know it's weird, public bathrooms in gas stations. And they did that with tens of thousands of people. They asked people coming out of these bathrooms, did you wash your hands after you finished your business? And guess what? 99% of people said, yes, of course I did. But they also installed electronic recording devices on the faucets, so they knew exactly how many people washed their hands. So 32% of men and 64% of women actually did wash their hands. So again, a big, big difference between what people say they do and what they actually do. There are a lot of reasons to explain why this is happening, and it's so unbelievable that researchers in the past 100 years tried these studies again and again and again at the same result each time. Almost zero correlation between what people say they do and what they actually do. Something that does not explain it is that we're liars. We're not. We're not intentionally lying. Again, there are many, many reasons for that, but let's just, for the sake of this talk, let's accept that this is the way things are. I'm happy to elaborate on that later if you want. So that's another problem. So when they ask people, would you use our app, they're collecting zero information and data. Their fourth problem is that they did not test their riskiest assumption. Every product, every app, every whatever comes with a set of assumptions. The riskiest assumption is the one that is core to the idea, and that if proven wrong or false, the whole idea falls apart. There's no app, there's no company, nothing will work. They didn't test their riskiest assumption. The riskiest assumption might have been this: that smartphone owners are aware, recognize their need or their ineffective habits of note-taking. If that doesn't happen, nobody would ever use their app. Do you have this show here for kids? Yeah, Bob the Builder. So they have what I call the Bob the Builder mentality. They rush into launching an MVP, a minimum viable product, without even knowing why, what for. They, instead of asking themselves whether they should develop the app, they ask themselves, can we build this app? And this is from the show, Can We Build It? Yes, 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 we can. They thought that developing this app is a coding exercise. And in their minds, a coding exercise doesn't require any insight or input from users. And their last problem is that they were perfectly executing the wrong plan. They developed a beautiful app that nobody needs, and they were not even aware of that. What they didn't do is validate these three things in this order. So first, they should have validated or invalidated if there's a problem. Is there a note-taking problem in this world? Second, they needed to make sure that enough people in this world have this problem and care about it. Because I can show you, I'm not going to exaggerate, hundreds of thousands of apps that solve problems that nobody cares about. So a problem is the gap between the current and desired state, but also how much people care about it. Okay? So they didn't test, they didn't validate the problem, they didn't validate that enough people care about their problem and have this problem. And finally, they didn't validate whether their product, their app, solves this problem for this market. And this model is taken from Laura Klein's book, UX for Lean Startups, which I highly recommend. So I was bashing them up until now, so let's say a few good things about them. They are doing a few things very well. Two things. First, they ask the right questions. And I'm telling you a fictional story about two co-founders, but this is based on a series, you can't see that, on a series of 150 interviews that I held with these people all over the world. And I wanted to know what are the questions that they are asking themselves about their users or potential users. And this is what I found. So these are great questions. Before I started, I created a list of my own. 10 questions every startup founder must ask him or herself before, during, or after they launch their product or develop their product. 7 out of the 10 questions were their questions as well. And these are the top ones. So to me, this is probably the most critical question. Do people need the product? 95% of them asked that question. That surprised me, and that's a very good thing. They also know the priority. They also know the order of questions. Which questions are more important than others? Okay? So these are very good things that they're doing. I'm not going to tell you how they answered those questions, but having those questions and knowing which question is more important than the other is a very, very positive thing. So these were their problems. I discussed the good things that they do. Now let's move on and see how you execute the right plan. So lean user research is there to help. And this is how I define it. Lean user research is a discipline that is providing insights is a key word here, providing insights into product users, their abilities and capabilities to the right people at the right time. Okay? And lean research has three kind of characteristics. It's of high quality, it's not crappy research. It's impactful, meaning that you can actually do something about it. It's not research for research. And it's fast. And we're always looking for, you can't see it because of the beamer, but we're looking for the golden triangle that combines all three. Just two or one of these is not enough. So what I'm going to do next is talk about or introduce you to three lean user research methods that could have solved their problems, might solve yours. I'm going to do that very briefly. The first one is called experience sampling. The second one is observation. And the third one is fake doors. So let's start with experience sampling. Experience sampling is a research method in which research participants are interrupted several times a day or a week, it depends, and note their real experience. They write down their real experience and share it with the researchers. It used to be called in the 1950s a pager study. I don't know if you heard that term, but a pager study, or in a pager study, the researchers handed pagers. Do you even know what these are? They handed pagers to people who participated in research and paged them a question. How are you feeling? What are you doing? Where are you? Things like that. And they responded. They collected all of that. So imagine you're asking one question, and that's all there is to it. In an experience sampling study, you ask one question over and over and over again. So I can tell you about a study that we did at Google. Started, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. And we do that since every year. We call it the daily information needs. For 3 days, we ask a lot of people the same question 8 times a day for 3 days. And the question is, what did you want to know recently and why? With or without connection to Google. What's that?
2 questions.
Yes. I cheat. We ask more questions. But this is the main question is, I'll tell you why we ask more questions. Because in the first study we saw answers. So the question was, what did you want to know recently? We got answers such as dogs. So we didn't really understand what was going on, so we added why. And for some people that didn't help either, but never mind that. So the key thing here is to ask the question again and again and again and again. The difference that you're getting is the difference in the answers. Okay? I want you to try it out. Take your phones out. Access this. There's an experience sampling question there waiting for you. Just one question. Answer it. You can do that in English or in German or in whatever you want. Oh, you're trying that. I should have removed that. That sucks. It works because you're sitting here. But that's only for the expensive seats. Okay? We're good? So I wanted you to experience how it is to answer a question. It takes maybe a minute. At Google, we use an app for that. We use an app that was developed by one of our engineers. The participants in the study, they install the app on their phones, and they're getting notifications that we send them. Each notification calls them to answer the question. It takes about a minute. It shouldn't take more than a minute. That's it. So 8 times a day for 3 days, 24 minutes. That's their investment in our study. We're not going to go over your answers, but I'm going to show you answers that other people gave to the same question. So here are 30-something answers to the same question that you just answered. Have a look. What groups can you very quickly see? Groups of answers you can very quickly see here.
Making a list of something.
Yes? Listing things? That's one. What's that? Notes? Again? What do you mean? Okay, I include all the notes and lists and to-dos under the same group. Okay, at least for these 30 answers. What else? Sketching, yes, that's the second group.
Rushing. Being in a hurry.
Being in a hurry? What do you mean?
Like, didn't find my cell phone, took a paper, put the note.
Okay. What else?
Reminders.
Reminders. I include notes and lists under reminders for the purpose of this exercise.
No computer or device available.
Okay, that's what the question is about. I'm asking specifically about a piece of paper. The last group is ideas. Okay, let me help you. And some don't belong yet, but imagine that you ask this question 5 times a day for 5 days with 100 people. How many answers do you get? 2,500 answers, right? That's a huge body of knowledge. It's amazing what you can get from one simple question and 2,500 answers. So that's what experience sampling can give you. The key thing here is asking a good question. So, because you can mess it up really easily with asking a bad question. So here are the characteristics of a good question for experience sampling. Again, I'm saying that each and every time because otherwise I see tweets. Google says that you shouldn't ask these questions in surveys. No, I'm only talking about experience sampling, okay? So the characteristics of a great experience sampling question are: 1, it has to ask about repeated behavior, something that happens over and over and over again. So if I ask a question such as, what annoyed you the last time you went on an airplane? That's not a very good experience sampling question unless your audience takes a flight once a day or a week. Okay? But if you do that twice a year, not a good question for experience sampling. Okay? The next 3 characteristics are no-nos. Don't ask about opinions. So, what do you think about waiting in line when you're purchasing tickets to the movies? Not a good question. Why? Because even if you ask that 10 times a day, or a week, or a month, the answer is not going to change much. So it's not repeated behavior, it's opinion. Our opinions don't change much. Okay? So we talked about repeated behavior, no opinions. The other no-no is no quant. Don't ask a question that the answer is a number. And this is what people took and said. Google said, no, don't ask about numbers in surveys. Don't ask about a question that the answer is a number for experience sampling. Why? I'll give you an example. How many emails did you receive in the past hour? Some people would say 0, some would say 1, 3, 17, 200, 1,000. You're not going to learn anything about what they need. You're going to have a nice average, some more numbers, and that's it. For the purpose of understanding or uncovering user needs in an experience sampling study, it's not a good question. And the last no-no is similar. Don't ask yes-no questions. Did you go grocery shopping yesterday? Yes. No. Some people would say yes, some people would say no. You'll learn nothing about their needs. Okay? So these are some characteristics, or the most important characteristics of a good experience sampling question. These are the benefits of experience sampling. You uncover user needs. You learn a lot about what people need, what problems they have. No? Features? Problems? Yes. Problems and pains. You learn about the features that you need. So we saw, not that it's representative of everything, but we saw only with 30 answers, we saw something about sketching. Maybe they need to sketch. Maybe that's a problem. I don't know. Maybe that's a feature. Okay? You learn these things from this. And you also learn about what they like. Okay? So some people might have said something like, I take notes, but only if it's a real high quality paper. I don't know, something like that. So you learn about what people like, not just about problems, pains, and unsolved problems. So that was experience sampling. Moving on. Don't confuse between the two. Observation. Observation is the science of contextualization. You go to your user or potential user's environment and observe them there. Okay? Of course, it must be relevant to what you're interested in. So if, for example, I'm interested in grocery shopping, I would probably go and observe them when they do their grocery shopping. Maybe other places too, but I'm not going to invite them to my office and ask them to come up with a grocery list, with a shopping list. Okay, that's not the point. The point is observing them in the right context. There are 4 pillars to observation. The first one is kind of stupid, but observing. Just being there and watching what happens gives you so much rich data, more than you can handle. So you learn things just by observing, just by standing there and watching what happens. You learn a ton of things you would never get from any other research method. The second is listening. People use kind of their own language when they talk about different things. When people talk with one another, you learn a lot of things, and they sometimes use jargon that you were not familiar with. How many of you, this is an example I really like, how many of you, raise your hand if you're using an online bank, or you access your account through an online service? Okay. Raise your hand if at some point you saw on the navigation words you don't understand. Okay? About a third of you. Why is this happening? This is happening because the bank or the committee that created that website is thinking about their terminology. When you listen during observations, you understand the terminology of your audience. And then you can use that terminology in your product or whatever it is. So that's listening. Next is paying attention or noticing. One thing is to just stand there. Any of you can go to a grocery store and just stand there and watch. But you need to know what to notice. You need to know what to look for. Otherwise, you'll be very, very confused. I'm going to talk about several of these things after this slide. And the last thing is gathering. We're gathering artifacts. So sometimes you can actually take things with you. In most cases, you take photos of things. What would be an artifact that you would want to gather if you're interested in grocery shopping? The receipt, yes. The shopping list, yes. Okay, these are two very obvious things that are artifacts of grocery shopping, and you would want to collect these. Okay, you learn a lot from these. So these are the pillars of observation. So I promised I'm going to talk more about paying attention to things. So I'm only going to mention 5 things, but the list of things to pay attention to is long. There are a lot more. These are just 5 things. So the first one is routines. A routine is something that the person does, something that the person, behavior that the person demonstrates that repeats. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's say you are interested in things that happen in a workplace. And let's say I'm observing you, and I notice that each time that you either receive or understand that there's a new work-related task that you need to do at some point, you open a spreadsheet and you write it down. That's a routine. Okay? If you do that each and every time, that's definitely a routine. Okay, why is this important? Because this routine can help me understand what you need. Because you create that, and that spreadsheet, by the way, is an artifact that I might want to collect. I understand that you're creating something. Let's say I provided an app for you that you're supposed to use for task management, but you don't do that. You open your spreadsheet. That indicates that there's a problem here. Something's wrong. Okay? So you would want to pay attention to routines. Next is interruptions. So interruptions are things that prevent you from completing your task. So for example, let's say you're interested in a meeting. You're interested in meetings. I don't know, you want to develop an app for meetings. And you watch a meeting, and then suddenly the person who is holding the meeting is getting a phone call, and he or she decides to leave the room and take the call. That's an interruption. Your intuition would be to ignore that. But if I was the researcher, I would follow them and see what made them leave the meeting that they started. What was so important? Maybe I'm missing something. Your intuition would be to not do that and just wait. No. Get up and follow them, see what happens, unless they kick you out of the bathroom because that's what they wanted to do. But and I can tell you all kinds of stories, but never mind that. That's an interruption. Okay? Life is full of interruptions. Nothing is clean. Okay? It's always, whatever you do, whatever you watch, whatever you observe, there are always interruptions. These are important. Next are annoyances. Annoyances are things that don't prevent you from completing a task, or don't prevent the person from completing a task, but they frustrate them, makes them mad, or just overwhelmed. It annoys them. Okay? These annoyances are also opportunities for us as product developers. Another thing that a lot of people ignore is delights. People love a lot of things. People enjoy a lot of things, including products or whatever, or situations or whatever. People love a lot of things. A lot of product developers think that research is there to help them find problems and challenges and bad things. It's partially true. If you learn about what your audience loves, why don't you do the same? So figure out, what is it? Pay attention to the things that they love. What is it that they enjoy? And the last thing I'm going to talk about, again, there are more. Last thing to pay attention to is what I call transitions. So let's take the meeting example. Let's say your observation is a full day, and the person you're observing is having 5 meetings during that day. Let's say that person has a back-to-back meeting. The meeting ends, and they immediately need to go to the next meeting. And there are, 200 meters that they walk in between those meetings. Again, your intuition would be to rest, not pay attention to what's going on during this transition. But these transitions are important. Things happen. People check their phones. People open their laptops as they walk and do things. What is it that they're doing? Do you know? Do you care? It might be relevant to the meeting, okay? Or to your app or to your product, whatever it is. When you're watching something that ends, let's say you're interested in, a classroom, taking notes. People take notes in a class, and then the class ends. Your research observation is not ended. What happens next is also important. Even when the research session is over, it's not over. When participants, it happens to me 100% of the cases. No matter if it's an interview, observation, whatever it is. If I'm in person, an in-person study, when the participant thinks that the session is over, then interesting things begin to happen. Because they think it's over, they need to stop playing, then they start saying things and doing things that they think you don't pay attention to. If you don't know to pay attention to these things, you're going to miss them. And these are probably the most important things that you learn. So these are just 5 things to pay attention to in observations. Instead of just talking about it, let's just do it for 90 seconds. Okay? This is a woman who is doing her grocery shopping. I have a thing for grocery shopping, but let's imagine that the store that this was taken in, a network, came to you and asked you, how can we improve the in-store experience for our customers with technology? Okay? And you do observations. So what I want you to do in the next 90 seconds is observe this and tell me, after it's done, what are the 3 things that she really, really cares about? Okay? Ready?
And another thing that I do is, if something is on really a good price, if something's on sale and it's for a really good deal, and it's not perishable, or that it has like an expiration date that's farther along, I'll buy a bunch. Like I literally, if I know my kids love it and I know that it's an amazing price, I buy like 10 of something. For example, the other day I bought Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I see that it's on sale now, but Haagen-Dazs ice cream is just really good quality ice cream, and there's a lot of flavors, and my kids love ice cream. So to me, sometimes quality is important, even though you're paying a little bit more. So I bought the Haagen-Dazs ice cream at like a good price, because then you save 2 for $7. You save 99 cents each. So you're actually saving $2 when you're paying $7 for 2. So I loaded up my carts. Maybe, Haagen-Dazs doesn't do a bigger size, so of course you're paying more. And
how do you know this is a good price compared to other places?
Good question. Just because in my experience I've seen Haagen-Dazs being sold, and it's usually the price that it says that it is. It's at least $4.50. For example, King's, the high-end market down the street, everything's more expensive than here baseline. So one time my husband liked the Greek yogurt, and I wanted to buy him the Greek yogurt when I was at King's, and they had a little sale, and I was so happy, and I bought a bunch. And I came home, and when I came here to Stop and Shop and I looked at the Greek yogurt, it was cheaper baseline than it was at.
Okay? What does she really care about? 3 things. Yes.
Make a good deal.
Make a good deal. Get a good price. Yes. What else? Her family. What about it? What does she care about?
What they love.
What they love and make them happy.
Quality.
Quality. Okay.
She buys the ice cream.
Yes.
Yeah.
High quality ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I saved you the 15 minutes about how she knows it's high quality, but I promise if there's anyone who's going to attend my workshop, I promise the full video with all the details. So that's just 90 seconds and we learned really important things. Okay, so imagine what happens if you do that. Well, I don't know how long you go on grocery shopping, but it could take an hour or 2. And do that with 8 people. You are going to collect tons of data from observing people. Notice that I also asked her a question. It's something you're allowed to do. You don't just observe. If you don't understand something, you can ask about it. Okay, these are the benefits of observation. You get a very good sense of what are the features that are needed in your product. You validate or invalidate your assumptions. You learn about problems and pains. You understand what is the workflow of your audience. And you learn about their goals. Okay? These are important things. Yes?
Do you think that you change their behavior because you're with them?
Of course I do. Of course I do. But it's better to know something than not know anything and just guess. And sometimes I ask them. Because sometimes they respond to that. If I see something that looks kind of, I think they're playing for me. I'm going to ask them directly. Is it something that you do normally when I'm not here? And if they say no, I just ignore it. And I just ask them to do what they usually do.
Do you extra ask them also to speak?
That's a very good point. So in the workshop, I'm going to show 2 videos in the same place. One is this one with this woman that I asked her to talk. The other one is silent. I asked her to just be natural because you usually don't talk to yourself when you do your grocery shopping. So most people. No, she talked to me. So we're going to talk about the differences. Sometimes it's okay to ask people to talk, and it's not okay to ask them to shut up. And sometimes the opposite is true. You need to think about it a little bit, depending on the situation. In this specific case, if I was just watching people do their grocery shopping without talking to me, I'm not going to understand much. It's just going to be very boring and quiet, and I'm not going to know anything. In a meeting, I'm not going to ask someone to turn to me and explain what's going on. I would just let them be and listen. Okay? All right. Last one, fake doors, also known as fake it till you make it. I'll show you an example. This is a better landing page for Nodio. Why? There's one difference here. Yes. Buy. You ask people to buy the app. If they buy the app, it doesn't mean 100% sure that they need it, but at least they think they need it. And if a lot of people think they need it, that's also a good sign. It's a beginning. Okay? So fake doors is asking people to show some commitment. Okay? Or interest.
I won't click the button.
You won't click the button? Okay.
I don't know about the features. I haven't seen the app. Why should I buy it? Why should I now decide to buy it?
That's you. Perfectly fine. No problem. It might depend on what's here. I'm perfectly fine with what you just said. Some people will, some people won't. There is a way to affect these clicks.
Maybe
with what's happening around the button. Okay? Another version of fake doors is the button to nowhere. The button to nowhere. Let's say they developed the app, they launched it, and now they're thinking, God knows why, that they want to do a TV app for note-taking. Okay? They just think this is an idea. So they can add this button here and see what happens. And after people click, if they click, they can show something like this, because it's leading to nowhere, because that feature doesn't exist. You can't really download. You can soften the punch. If you have some money, you can give them, I don't know, $5 in Amazon or something. Thank you for helping us decide. Or just being honest. Sorry for tricking you. We just want to find out if people are interested in that. I've seen that happen before. Google would never do that. Never, ever. But that's only because I'm hesitating whether to say 2 seconds or 1 second after we do this. We're going to see 2,000 news stories about that, and the stock will go down. But small startups that don't have a lot to lose can definitely do that. This is becoming really powerful if you track the ratio between how many people click the button and how many people were exposed to it, and you say to yourself in advance, really important, in advance, what is the threshold that if crossed would make you want to develop this feature? Okay? Not after you see the numbers, before you see the numbers. So this will keep you honest. It's also known as the 404 test. That I highly recommend against. But some bad people, nasty people do that as well. The button really leads to nowhere. Just a 404 page. I once heard Eric Ries talk about that, saying this is legitimate. And somebody raised their hand and asked, "Are you serious? People will sue me. They'll chase me." And you know what he said in response? "Then you know you have a business." True story. All right, you have the book? Do you have the book?
We have a book for you guys, so.
But only. Okay, I'm gonna start with this. Yeah. I'll show you this. Wait with it for 1 second so you get the joke. Okay, some of you got it. I want to talk a little bit about surveys. And I'm against surveys, at least for startups. And I know that this is something a lot of startups do a lot. If you know why I'm against it, you'll get the book, the first one that knows. Which book? The Startup Owner's Manual.
It's Startup Owner's Manual, but the German version, Handbuch für Startups.
Yeah, not my book. Steve Blank and Bob Dole.
Your book's is still
not ready
right?
yet. Yeah, I'm wasting my time talking to people instead of writing.
The same here. You don't learn anything from the survey because you don't get real answers. Because for one, it's
Those are your answers.
Just do a raffle. The answer is, it's not about the users. It's about the people who write the survey. Startup founders, most people actually, it's not just startup founders, have no idea how to create a good survey. Creating a survey is probably the easiest thing to do. You can, each and every one of you can launch a survey within 5 minutes from now if you want to, even less. But it's very, very, very hard to launch a good survey. And some of you touch these things in the details, but the big problem is that we have no idea how to phrase questions. We have no idea how to create good surveys. A lot of surveys ask about the future. A lot of surveys ask open-ended questions. A lot of surveys are too long or too short, or they ask the right questions and then they ask all the wrong questions. And then people go back and change. It's a mess. When I need to run a survey, and I've been a researcher for it's 2015, so 16 years. When I need to do a survey, I go to the experts. Experts, you know, these people that give you election results and analyze these kinds of experts. People whose profession is to write surveys. And what they do with me at Google, with me and any other person who asks, they ask you to write your own survey and then give it to them for review. And it's like failing a test really badly each and every time. and I know what to do, or at least I think I know what to do. It's very, very, very hard to write a good survey. So don't. Just don't. Unless you have a real expert with you, an expert in surveys. Okay? That's my thing about surveys. I just raffled the book. All right. Lean user research. Okay? This is the definition of it. And I want to close with this. If you want your product, your app, to have the same destiny as helicopters in movies, ignore your users, ignore research, ignore lean user research. A lot of people who develop products think that it's a waste of time to learn from users. If there's one thing I want you to remember from this talk, it's not the survey thing, is that if you don't do research, you're going to waste your time developing the wrong app. So please, please, please don't execute the wrong plan and execute the right plan. Thank you. A long list of criminals helped me create this presentation. Hendrik was my partner in crime for the German version. He's a researcher like I am, who's German, obviously. And I want to show you a bunch of my crap, if you're interested, except for the workshop that I don't know if you still receive registrations, but we're having the workshop tomorrow and on Friday. This is an online course that I developed, and that's only for identifying user needs. Okay? So a lot deeper into experience sampling, observation, and interviewing. This is a series that I'm closing up next week with Steve Krug about remote research. This is my monthly Lean User Research newsletter. I promise 1 email a month or less. Less meaning once every 2 months. I'll tweet everything. And sample chapter from my book, my upcoming book. I have no idea if that's a 0 or an O. I should change that. I use a website called Learnist to create all kinds of boards on the different topics. Most of them research related. And on Instagram, I try to do these things that relate to research, but that's just for fun. I'm going to tweet all of that. So I'm going back here, and now we're going to take questions.
Yeah, and it would be really awesome if you can use the mic for the questions, because we have a live stream going on, and the audience, the thousands of people that are listening, they want to hear
Millions?
your
What do you mean
voice.
thousands?
So, who has a question?